From the Oklahoman newsroom, you're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. Barry, we're right in the middle of these NBA playoffs. Thunder taking a slight breather here as we wait for the start of a second-round series against the Spurs, that being on Saturday. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be on the two superstars playing those wing positions, that being Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard. Those two guys, I mean, all-stars for sure, and would even be battling out for a spot on that All-NBA first team. But Kawhi Leonard, Barry, has developed at a rate that we haven't seen a lot of guys develop in this league. And he's not only huge to the success now, but more long-term. His development has really kind of kept this team together.
Yeah, he's done a great job turning himself into a superstar, but he's also given the Spurs new life. I mean, look back 3-4 years ago, we were all talking the Spurs' demise, the end of a dynasty. Tony Parker even talked about, maybe it's time to break it all up. But what's happened with the three old guys, Ginobili, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, they've been able to continue to play competitively while the Spurs develop a new superstar, sign LaMarcus Aldridge in free agency, and presto, they've got a great roster with the old guys not having to carry the load near as much. So Kawhi Leonard is really he's transformed the Spurs, and he's basically been able to sort of build a bridge over the rebuilding or the retooling, so the Spurs haven't even missed a step.
Yeah, we love puns around here, and at our staff meeting this week, as we were talking about Kawhi Leonard, we decided that the headline on his story should be "The Bridge Over River Kwai."
I don't know much of a whistler, but you get what I mean. Think French is mustard.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, as you said, he has really bridged what could have been a difficult time for this Spurs franchise. At some point, it hasn't happened yet, but at some point, the old three is going to decide this is it. But they've been able to continue to play at somewhat of a diminished amount of minutes, diminished importance, as Kawhi Leonard has brought the next generation with him. Danny Green, obviously, he's a guy that got developed within that Spurs organization, played overseas for a minute before getting brought back to that organization and continuing to develop. But, if you don't have Kawhi Leonard going from all NBA, all defensive, Barry, I mean, this was a great defensive player. There were some people that thought, maybe he could be as good a defender as, say, a Tony Allen or somebody like that. He's not only a great defender, now he's evolved the offensive game. Like I said, this kind of development of a player doesn't happen all the time. He's really remade his game, seems like year after year after year.
Yeah, and you're right. He was drafted. Now the Spurs saw it. I mean, they traded an established starter, George Hill, for the rights to draft Kawhi Leonard at 14 or 15. I can't remember which, but the Spurs saw the potential. But he's really even surpassed, I think, what Greg Popovich and R.C. Buford and those guys foresaw. And he's turned himself into an offensive force. And really, I mean, to supplant Kevin Durant on the All-NBA first team, which we think he's going to this season, that's an amazing transformation. And we've seen guys really develop and become what you didn't think they could. Russell Westbrook's a great example. But Westbrook, at least, was a phenomenal athlete, and you thought, this guy's got...
he showed shades of the offensive skills that he now has refined.
But Leonard, not so much. I mean, Leonard, you thought was going to be a good, solid player, but he's turned into a superstar. So it's going to be a big-time matchup. I don't know if this is good news or bad news for Kevin Durant. Leonard won't be on KD all the time.
Yeah.
They'll put him on Westbrook some. He's 6'7", long wingspan. He can bother Russ. Mm-hmm. So he's a defensive force for the Spurs, no doubt about it.
Well, and as Eric Horn, one of our Thunder writers, wrote about Kawhi Leonard in the Wednesday editions of the Oklahoman and on News OK, this is a guy that can basically be sort of a neutralizer, a mere opposite, if you will, of Kevin Durant, because he can score with Kevin Durant while also guarding him. You don't have a lot of guys in the league like that. We've talked and we've heard over the years, do the Thunder have somebody to match up against X? Do they have somebody to defend Y? Well, there's a lot of teams around the league that say the same thing about guarding Kevin Durant. And here Kawhi Leonard is, a guy who's able to guard him, to give him problems, and now he's evolved this offensive game. It's going to be really interesting to see at the end of games who has the advantage in that scoring matchup between those two. Like you say, it's not a perfect exact ratio because they will move Kawhi Leonard around and the Thunder will move Kevin Durant around some on defense. But who outscores who could really go a long way to determining who wins games in this series, this Western Conference semifinals. You're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny here with Barry. Barry, it's not just all NBA playoffs around here right now. The NFL comes back into our purview as the NFL draft. But for a second, let's take a little bit broader view even on that, because the Philadelphia Eagles and Sam Bradford, native son Sam Bradford, a beloved figure here in Oklahoma, become embroiled in a little bit of a controversy in Philadelphia. You wrote a little bit about this on your blog and just how he has to feel a little bit used right now because Philadelphia signs him to a deal. Suddenly they get leverage. Now they've gone out and got the number 2 draft pick in the NFL draft.
Well, I mean, yeah, Sam Bradford sort of in limbo when Chip Kelly gets fired at the end of the season of 2015. But the Eagles say, hey, we want you. They sign him to a 2-year contract, front-loaded, $11 million signing bonus. And Sammy thinks, oh, I mean, the Eagles want me to be their quarterback. And then they make a trade, mortgaging their future. Big, heavy price. To get the number 2 overall pick, obviously to get a quarterback, probably Carson Wentz, with a clear plan of let Bradford quarterback with Wentz, getting some backup situations in 2016 and handing over the reins in 17. Mm-hmm. And I think Bradford didn't like it. I think he felt misled. I also think he felt used. Clearly, if you've got Sam Bradford under contract, your negotiations with the Browns for this trade gives the Eagles more power. They could easily have walked away. So I think Bradford feels that he doesn't have a lot of trust factor with this organization. He's wanting to trade. And, the Philadelphia people think it's going to happen. He will get moved. Yeah,
and you know what? It's been interesting to watch this all play out because, a lot of times, you don't have sort of the big picture. If you're not in Philadelphia, you're not close to Sam Bradford like we are here in Oklahoma, you may not know the nuances of this. And Barry, I've been thinking about this as this week has gone on. And, there's sort of different verbiage that's been thrown out there. Sam Bradford demands trade. You see everything from demands to requests. So I think it depends on maybe some verbiage that's out there. But if you're not close to the situation, if you don't maybe understand what has happened here and some of those contract situations, don't you look at this and say, man, Sam Bradford's crying about a lot of nothing. Here he is getting, like you said, front end, I think it was $11 million guaranteed to sign, or $11 million signing bonus.
Right.
I mean, here he is with all these millions. What's he crying about? So the perception of Sam Bradford, he's had some obviously struggles, injuries, and now here he is getting a big contract, and now he wants to get traded. I think at least the perception of him, it can't be real good around most NFL cities.
Well, I don't know that it's great around Oklahoma. I've heard people around town today saying, Sam doesn't look good in all this. And the truth of the matter is, nobody looks good. Bradford comes across as not wanting to compete for the job. But the truth of the matter is, if the Eagles draft Carson Wentz, number 2 overall, they're not sitting him on the bench more than 1 year. I mean, you don't give away that many assets and then tell a guy, just wait your turn. We'll see if you can play in 2 years. He's eventually going to take over. So I think that's where Bradford's at. And, his career's getting pretty far down the road.
Yeah.
He's, I don't know if he's turned 30 yet, but he's right on the doorstep. So we're talking about a guy that really is still not found his NFL footing yet. And the clock is ticking. And he was thinking, maybe Philadelphia is a new lease on life. Even after the changing coaches from Chip Kelly to Doug Peterson, he's thinking, maybe this is it. And then he realizes this is not it. This is a team that really doesn't want me for any kind of long-term situation. I need to get somewhere where they really want me. I think that's what his motivation is.
Yeah, and I like you say, I think there are some people that, when I looked at it at first before I sort of processed the situation, it does make Sam Bradford look bad because here he is, a guy that really hasn't proven anything. He gets another big deal. He was one of those last bonus babies to come through the NFL draft process. So he's a guy that's made a ton of money for the production that he's had. It's pretty remarkable sort of how skewed those two marks are. So here's a guy getting paid well and hasn't really produced yet. But I think, Barry, what you said is right. He's trying to find his footing. And in some ways, make a run at becoming a legitimate NFL quarterback while he still feels like there's a chance. And yet again, now he's looking at the turnover in coaches when he was in St. Louis was almost every year. New system, new offensive coordinator, new head coaches. And now here he is again, potentially looking to go somewhere else. Really unfortunate situation for Bradford to find himself in that situation. But, I don't mean to laugh, but I was thinking about the fact that a year ago, Sam Bradford, DeMarco Murray, Lane Johnson, seemed like a Sooner nirvana in Philadelphia. Now DeMarco Murray gone, Sam Bradford wants to be gone. Definitely things did not turn out as well as a lot of people hoped they would. I think that includes the people with the Eagles organization. Hey, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny here with Barry. I mentioned earlier, NFL draft time starts Thursday night. First round Thursday, second, third on Friday, and then it finishes up with the last 4 rounds on Saturday. Not a ton of big names out there amongst locals being drafted, Barry, but Emmanuel Ogbah seems like a guy who's pretty likely to be a first-round pick. We've sort of seen him oscillate between lower first, upper second, but it really deep defensive line draft. Where does he fall? Is he a first-day guy, or does he fall into that second day?
I think it all depends on, it may depend on what the Carolina Panthers do. Mm-hmm. We've seen 2 mock drafts, including one very legitimate one from Peter King of Sports Illustrated, from Monday Morning Quarterback, who has Ogbah going 31st overall to the Panthers. That'd be a great spot for Emmanuel. Go to an established team, defending NFC champion, team that could use some defensive line fortification. Yep. In some ways it's better to go late first than early first, because you're going to a much better team. You can make get a bigger impact in terms of big games, big spotlight, big stage.
Right.
So if he falls that far, that'd be great. Now if he slips into the second, he's back into some struggling teams, and maybe a better chance to play, but not a better chance to win. So he's probably going to go first, and among the Oklahomans. And, if he goes in the first round, especially to the Panthers, that'd be a great spot.
Yeah, and, I think that there is some question out there about his pass rush ability. We saw, obviously, ton of sacks at OSU. The last 3 years he was in Stillwater, just unbelievable production from the pass rush, getting the quarterbacks. Some questions, though, out there. Did he just have one go-to move that he went to again and again? Possibly, but, we were joking about this earlier in the week, Barry. Some people, when Blake Griffin left OU, said he just dunks the ball all the time. Well, yeah, because that's what he can do, and it's pretty highly effective. So, it's not to say that it applies to Emmanuel Ogbah, but perhaps it was one of those deals where he found out, hey, this works. I'm just going to keep going to it, and it's definitely paying dividends for my team. I think he's a guy, work ethic-wise, he can develop other skills, and I think athletically he's got that ability as well. But then I think the other question, Barry, is run stop ability, and is that a question that comes up with defensive linemen across the Big 12? There are some good ones out there, but this has become such a passing league. Is that a question that's going to dog not only Emmanuel Ogbah, but maybe some other guys?
Yeah, I think it will. Now, Ogbah's a little bit ahead of the curve. Oklahoma State, in run situations, they often moved him from defensive end into defensive tackle. Short yardage, goal line situations. So it's not like it's foreign to him. Now, he's not an NFL nose guard. He's not 330 pounds. Don't think that he is. But he's got some experience in there in terms of the run stoppage. And the truth of the matter is that run stoppage, even in the NFL, is not as highly valued as the pass rush. I mean, the game really anymore, the game boils down to pass protection and pass rush. So if he can show that he can rush NFL passers, if he can beat NFL offensive tackles around the edge, he's going to have a long career.
Yeah. Quickly before we wrap it up, other guys that are out there, Sterling Shepard sounds like a guy that may be on the rise almost as much as anybody out there. Sounds like he's almost a for sure second-day guy. Could even be in that second round. It's a pretty big jump for Sterling Shepard, but it sounds like a lot of people feel like he's got a long NFL career ahead of him.
I think he's got a good chance to go second, third round, and he's a guy that just catches the ball and makes plays. He's got the
you can use that in the NFL, by the way.
He's got the NFL pedigree. His
Yeah.
dad played in the NFL. He's a solid guy. Never looked. He was an easy recruit. He was never in trouble. Mm-hmm. Just a pristine prospect is what he is in terms of character. and dependability. That goes a long way in the NFL because they don't want any headaches. They have to sometimes take headaches for the superstars. They want your support people to be guys you can count on. Teams know they can count on Sterling Shepard. I think he'll fall into a pretty good place.
Yeah, and that's actually something about Ogba I think is worth noting as well. A guy that never got into any trouble as far as we know. Totally solid, good locker room guy. I think those things will play well. Another name I'll mention, look at Devontae Bond. See where he goes. I'm curious to see where he ends up, the former Sooner. A guy that we're hearing that might end up getting drafted higher than Eric Stryker, a guy that is very similar but maybe better in pass situations, covering the pass, dropping back, doing those sorts of things. So an intriguing prospect there. But again, Thursday night, first round, second and third on Friday, wraps up on Saturday. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.